Whenever you organize people into a group with a mission and a reward system tied to that mission, you create two competing forces. Stake and rank, stake and outcome, perks of rank. Stake and outcome, perks of rank. Here's what I mean. Small company, 10 people, stake and outcome is huge. If you have a tiny biotech company and the drug works, everyone is a hero and a millionaire for the rest of their life. Well, at least a hero for the rest of their life. Perks of rank are tiny. Somebody's a team captain, somebody is a team member. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Everybody rolls up their sleeve to save that crazy idea because stake in outcome is so big, perks of rank are tiny. Now, imagine 100,000 people. And I'm just going to make up a name at random. Pfizer, hypothetical. I checked, not a sponsor. Now, same use, same drug, same project. You're at a committee meeting to discuss that project. Every early stage project has good things, potential, and has flaws. This experiment hasn't quite been done. This thing hasn't really been done. Now, same you like it. You're just as excited, but it comes in. Do you want to unite? What you're going to do is consider those two things that I just mentioned. What's your stake and outcome? Well, a good drug sells a few $100 million a year. Pfizer's annual revenue, anybody? $50 billion a year. Your stake and outcome is tiny. Perks of rank. Well, if that drug comes into the committee meeting and you say, well, you know, that's interesting, but I think they didn't do that experiment. This is really important. And in my experience, and by the way, I went to this conference and I talked to this Nobel laureate and the industry is headed over here. And I think really the industry is headed in this direction and these folks don't really see that. By total coincidence, your boss is at the table, and that's exactly what she thinks. Who knew? What a coincidence. And she's nodding her head, yeah, oh. And then her boss is in the table, and that's, wow, what a coincidence. That's just what she thinks. Yeah, the industry is headed this way. What might happen? Then they say, well, you know, this young fellow's got a head on his shoulders. What might happen? Might get promoted. You get promoted, what happens? 30% bump in salary. Boom! Perks and rank outweigh stake and outcome. Somewhere between those two is a phase transition. There's one phase in which you nurture these loonshots, these crazy ideas. Why do I call them loonshots? Because the big ideas, the ones that really change the course of science, business, history, transform industries, rarely arrive with blaring trumpets and red carpets dazzling everybody with their brilliance. Usually they arrive dismissed or neglected for years or decades, their champions written off as crazy. Since there wasn't a good word in the English language for that, I made one up. On the other side, you have the franchises, things that do well in committee meetings. The 27th James Bond movie, yeah, I think we can do that. What do we need? Well, let's see. We need a bad guy, a fast car, a damsel in distress who double-crosses him, and we're done. Boom. The next statin drug, the next ulcer drug, the 57th iPhone, franchises. And what happens there? You come along with an idea. Oh, I got an idea for a new movie. It's here's my idea. It's giant turtles with swords who like pizza. Are you out of your mind? Get out of here. Of course, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a multi-billion-dollar franchise. Now, all this is very different than what you typically think about when you hear about culture. The stuff that I read about when I was first starting as a manager or a leader, culture, blah, 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 I just would think yogurt after a while. You can think of culture as the patterns of behavior that you see on the surface. You can think of structure, you have an innovative culture, a political culture, you can think of structure as what's underneath that drives those patterns of behavior. If you reward rank, you will get a political culture. If you celebrate intelligent risk-taking and results and ideas, you will get an innovative culture. There's a famous cliche in business, culture eats strategy for breakfast. What I'm telling you is why structure eats culture for lunch. Now, here's why this really matters. Fixing culture is hard, almost impossible. No amount of asking employees to sing Kumbaya and hold hands and work together is going to do much. Just like yelling at a block of ice to the molecules, hey, could you guys just loosen up a little bit? Everybody just is not going to melt it. But a small change in temperature can get the job done. Small change in temperature can melt steel. Now here's where this gets really, really interesting. Once you understand these forces, you can begin to manage them. When it snows overnight, what do you sprinkle on your sidewalk? Salt. By the way, I was giving this talk in Southern California. I view this as a rhetorical question. As a New Englander, just crickets. I was like, wait, what? I was just, I lost my, then I realized it doesn't snow. Bad example. Raw iron, when you draw it out of the ground, is a very weak metal. Sprinkle a little carbon in it, what does it become? Steel. Add a little nickel and cobalt, it becomes the ultra-strong alloys you use inside jet engines and nuclear reactors. This is what we can do for teams and companies. Once we understand these forces, we can find the equivalent of sprinkling salt. And here's how we do it. You write down an equation. This is not just an analogy. This is actually going back to first principles. What are the incentives? When did they cross? And you find the size at which a company will flip from an innovative to a political, from a liquid to a solid. This is that equation. I'm obviously not going to go through it in detail. You want the more details and all those parameters, you can read about it more. Those little parameters are the micro things that you can change to adjust, like sprinkling salt, that you can adjust to design a more innovative structure. Now, what I want to do is come back to a far bigger problem, which is that there are two phases. Why is this such a big problem? Because companies need to do both. You need to innovate the crazy new ideas. At the same time, you need to deliver your products on time, on budget, on spec consistently. You need loonshots and franchises to coexist, but a system cannot be in two phases at the same time. That's impossible.